Empowered Living with Lori Bertoni. So we are live. Yay! It's working. I love when things work out like this because it took me a while to figure it out. Hi, G.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And I know you're just great too. You just told me all about it. I'm good too. I went for a nice walk today. So I was in the middle of typing and you were like, hello, I just told you how awesome my morning was. Like you did doing this typing. Me too. Did a good workout, went for a walk with a friend, and I'm pooped already. I'm ready for a nap. It's been a crazy week.
Here.
Yeah. But I'm so glad you took the invitation to come on and talk to us about awakening the wild, the divine feminine. And I'm excited to share with the viewers exactly kind of what that means. And you and I have, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Lori Bertoni or Gordana. Gordana and I met, 6 years ago or so.
How long already? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I've known you forever.
Yeah.
And so
20 years.
So 6 years ago in our coaching program, and it's been kind of a whirlwind of life since then, really. And meeting Gordana as a wonderful person and a friend now, a dear friend. She's also been the person that I go to for guidance and mentorship and everything else too, because that's one of the benefits of being a coach is you have coaches in your life to guide you along your path. And watching us take some two different distinct paths, in our coaching and in our lives as we both discover and evolve and everything else like that. And so I'm excited because I'm part of Gordana's program right now, which is called Awakening the Wild Feminine. Is that what it's called? Awakening the Wild Feminine?
Awakening the Wild Feminine. Yeah.
Right. And in the past 3 weeks or so, just doing my own research and learning and tapping into like what the divine feminine is and what the divine masculine is and how that, tapping into those things, how it can benefit you in your life. I was like, yeah, you got to come and talk to my people about that. Like they need to know. And so if you are in a place where you're feeling stuck or you're pushing hard for things in your life, or there's a lot of resistance, and there's so much going on too, not only in our homes and in our businesses and our jobs, but the world, feels like a little heavy right now too. And so, we're going to talk today a little bit about the simple things that we can do to just find some relief in all of that and to figure out, how we can stop pushing and in resistance and really getting back, right? So G, tell us a little bit about your journey too, even though I kind of touched upon it, but how you came into all of this divineness.
All right. So I got into sex coaching now over my own struggles and my own personal resistance that I was finding in my own life. So I started out in health and fitness probably over 10 years ago. And I was really striving to initially fix my body. Like a lot of women, after my third baby, I wanted my body back. So I started working out or working through different fitness modalities, came upon CrossFit. It changed my world. And within the first year, how deep do you want me to go? I'll go
as deep as you want. Like do it. Like this group is ready for this. If you're listening to this, you're ready for this.
Okay. So within the first year of that journey, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and went into surgery, had a partial mastectomy and chemo treatments. And I also in that same year divorced my then husband because when it rains, it pours, right? So that was really turning point number 1 for me. So clearly I had to heal my body. I had some work to do. Most of my life, as many of you, I've been a perfectionist. Okay. A lot of the women that I work with are the same, right? Maybe some of you can identify with this. I don't know. And I connect this to other extremes, like extreme behaviors like procrastination. Okay. So all of this kind of really led to going all into what I was doing. So my why was big enough. I needed to heal my body. So I went strict paleo for about 5 years. And then I did a little bit of keto, all working out. I was doing consistent 5 or 6 days in the gym. And then that went, over the next 10 years, I tried all kinds of different things with my health, strength, weight loss, different methodologies. I really dove deep into learning about what made the physical body thrive, all while having a deep desire to look good and feel good in my body, right? So somewhere, I think around the 5 year mark, I realized that I was chasing this ideal that really wasn't attainable, because it didn't matter how good I looked, how lean I was, how perfectly healthy I was. I really still wasn't very happy. Like, I remember looking back at pictures of myself when I was like lean AF. Okay. And I remember feeling at the time that it's still not enough. I still needed to be leaner. I still needed way more definition in my legs, right? To even think about doing or think about wearing shorts or doing something that was, do you know what I mean? So
Shorts.
yeah, right. So that was really turning point number two for me.
Mhm.
When I realized that my body was starting to crap out on me again, right? My adrenals and cortisol was completely out of whack. I was just exhausted. I was exhausted physically. I was exhausted mentally of chasing something that always seemed to kind of elude me, right? That perfect body. And I quickly realized that there's a huge, huge difference between eating for health and weight loss. You can eat all the, healthy organic foods all you want, but if your emotional and your spiritual health are not being loved up on, okay, you're going to get discomfort. There's going to be misalignment, and dare I say, disease that actually shows up in our physical bodies. Okay, so I wanted to heal the relationship I had with food and my body, and I wanted to love my body without having to deprive myself or restrict myself of food. Um, and I didn't want it to be hard, right? Crazy workouts all the time, spent like solely focused in on the gym. I didn't want that anymore. I just wanted it to be easy because I was so tired, right? I was like exhausted. So emotionally, I was the queen of sweeping everything under the rug. My communication was poor. My relationships were a complete disaster. I couldn't keep one. I hated my job. I was making six figures for this amazing company, and I was doing really, really well, but I hated every single second of it. And I really knew, like deep, deep down, that my soul was like screaming. It was screaming for more. So I knew that I didn't want to sit in front of a computer for the rest of my life from 9 to 5. Okay. So for the next 5 years, I spent a lot of time working through emotions. So I started a huge kind of self-love and inner healing journey. And I think that's around the time that we met. 5 or 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was extreme. It was challenging. There were lots of ups and downs. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of tears, a lot of pain, a lot of really, really, really diving deep into things, into areas of my life that I didn't even really know kind of existed, right? Um, it was at the end of one relationship that it all kind of came crashing down, and it kind of cracked me. It cracked me wide open into looking into all of these wounds, right, in a really, really deep way. It was almost like something I didn't have access to. Um, Now I did, right? So it was like peeling back the layers of everything in my life and kind of diving in head first, right? Like the layer of childhood traumas, right? So my father died when I was really young. I was 14. And in a lot of ways that left me numb, right? So not wanting to feel, hiding, or like not knowing how to express those emotions, right? The layers of relationship with my mother, that was another huge one,
Oh my
right?
God. Like, so for those of you who are watching and listening to this, if you're relating to her, because I'm like, yes, yes, you see my head nodding. I feel like a bobblehead. I'm like, yes, like
Yeah.
just let us know you're relating with this. So
Yeah.
go on. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the relationship with my mom, that was a huge one, and it's still ongoing. Like she's truly one of my greatest teachers. My romantic relationships, the abuse that I put up with, the addictions, drugs, alcohol, the relationship between my body and myself, right? there was the core wound of unworthiness and a lack of self-love. And it all just started to become very, very apparent, right? So from all of this, I realized that I was doing a lot of personal development at this point. I got certified as a master practitioner in NLP and hypnotherapy, which opened up worlds for me. I was coaching, and I was being coached. I was seeing counselors. I was doing a lot of talking, right? And an unbelievable amount of progress was being made. Like I was making huge progress. It was amazing. And because of the work I had done to this, like I had done up until this point, there was a lot of things that were going extremely well, right? Like I quit my job, yay, right? I started my own coaching business. My girls were amazing. I have 3 girls, by the way. Um, and I was doing the things that I loved. I was traveling. I was enjoying being present. I was doing all of that kind of stuff. But what I found, and this was turning point number 3 for me, was that there was still a lot of stuck energy, and there was still this feeling of paralyzation and a lack of movement in my life the way that I wanted it, right? Specifically when it came to things like money and love. And it was all stuck in my body, okay? So that led me down to exploring sex and sexuality. Because it was the only thing that I was avoiding because I didn't think I needed any work in the area, right? And yeah, that took me down this rabbit hole, a very, very interesting rabbit hole. So I avoided femininity big time. I had to relearn how to love my body as a woman.
But did you know you were avoiding femininity at the time?
Not at the time, I didn't at all.
Right.
Um, and I also had to relearn how to love my body as a woman with one breath, right? So,
Right, because you didn't say that. You didn't mention that. You had
yeah,
a
yeah,
single mastectomy.
right. So there were so many, incredible realizations that came out in this work, learning about masculine and feminine energy and how it flows. I really, really quickly became aware that I was living most of my life in a masculine state. I had a job where 90% of the environment were men, running my own business and modeling that model, right? I was the sole provider. At this point, I'd been divorced for 10 years and it was just me. So I was always in the doing mode. I was the only one working.
Which is very typical of women today, right? Like we were just talking about this, how, women are stepping into careers and, they want it all and they're starting their own businesses and they're, wanting to be providers for their family, and do it all. And so that means becoming ambitious. And I think that for so long, as women, we're not programmed really to have that level of ambition, or moms were like, hey, just find a good man and get provided for and we'll be happy. Like that was the extent of, like get a good job and an education and everything. But that's about, nothing beyond that.
There's a misalignment, right?
Yeah.
We can have all of that. We deserve all
can.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was the sole provider. I was the only one working. I was totally in survival mode, right? I had really no space for feminine. I didn't even know what it looked like. I didn't know how to access it, right? And to me, truthfully, like when someone said feminine to me, like it felt weak, right? I'm
like wearing a dress.
Yeah,
like I'm feminine today because I'm wearing a dress.
Yeah, how am I going to accomplish? Like I'm driven. I have all these goals. I want to succeed. I want to accomplish. how am I going to even do that? Like what's feminine? No, like I had no idea what it looked like. What else did I learn? I learned a lot about dominance and submission. This masculine and feminine power dynamic. It was huge for me, right? Control, surrender, learning how to flow between the two. Learning how much power and beauty and safety and trust and love can be found in surrender. And as much as I thought I connected with my body, there was a part of me that wanted to hide, right? And not feel feminine because, like I was saying, because of the breast that I lost. So I truly didn't realize how much of an impact it played out on my sensuality and on my sexuality and on my self-love, right? So what I realized was a lot of trauma is, and this too, is stuck in our tissues, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we can
lives in our body, in our cellular memory, right?
right? So, and we can do all the talk therapy that we want, right? But if we're not incorporating the body into our healing, we're not actually getting as far ahead as we have access to. So bringing sexuality into the mix was a game changer. So much of our creative energy, our womb space is connected to our brains. And I realized the more that I integrated the feminine and sexuality and did embodiment practices, it really, really started to shift and move the energy from the body. And just when you do that, so much more becomes available.
You know what? And I love that, just in talking, so much people are like, how do I let go? What does surrendering mean? Like when your knees hit the floor in life and you are, looking towards the sky and God and help in any way, shape, or form, that's kind of the surrendering you're at. And, where do you look? Right. And then we're only exposed to really what mainstream has to offer in terms of support or resources and everything else like that. There's nothing mainstream on this type of personal support or personal exploration, right? Like it's, and you discovered yours on your own path through your own healing and everything else like that, and realized the significance and I want to say the healing that it's given to you, right? As you start to, when you look in your life and you're not having the things that you want. And ultimately, what does it really come back to? It comes back to happiness, right? Like general happiness in all areas of your life. But when we look at even issues in your relationships, constant power struggles, problems with your children, constant power struggles, issues with yourself, constant power struggles, like the devil and the freaking angel on your shoulders all the time. Should I, shouldn't I, shouldn't I, right? So we're in a constant power struggle and a dynamic and a polarity all the time. And so this is exactly what the divine and masculine really can do for you. And here we're just introducing you to another side of, instead of doing more, because we're always think, what else can I do? What else can I do? I'm not doing enough. And then we're like, okay, if I can do nothing more, like now we got to figure it, we got to be, right? So tapping into the divine feminine, and since taking your course, I'm like, this is more about the being part and learning more about you and who you are and how you tick and how you relax and everything else like that. And I feel like I've turned into like this, and not in even a negative way, like I've just taken a step back and I'm just chill. All of a sudden it's like, I'm more aware, I'm more loving, I'm more giving, I'm more I want to say passive, where before I've been more reactive and more, harsh and more judgmental and mostly on myself, right? So this, incorporating the mind, body, spirit, and the whole surrender part, the letting go, is that even yesterday when I was I shared, hey guys, you got to listen to this tomorrow, because sometimes it's time for you to let go. If you can't let go, what can't you let go of? And if you can't let go, okay, here are some suggestions, right? So what has doing this work so far done for you?
Oh my goodness. So, okay. So like you were saying, so many of us live in this like polarity, and women, especially entrepreneurial women, like, I don't know if your group, I'm assuming, is mostly women who are like, who are driven, or who are moms, or who are, do you know what I mean? I found that, especially in the work that I do, like we get to a certain point in our lives where our kids are, they come to a certain age, and we're kind of like lost. We don't know what we want to do anymore, because our purpose is not the same anymore. Do you know what I mean? We've had all of these dreams, and now all of a sudden we have this free time because our kids are older. Maybe we don't like our jobs anymore, right? And we start new things and new ventures, right? Which is amazing. But we're brought up in this patriarchal society where everything is like push, push, push. We have to drive. You know what I mean? Like we have to penetrate. We have to constantly be doing, right? As opposed to just leaning back and being, right? Leaning back and learning how to allow life to happen to us, learning how to receive, right? Naturally with the flow, right? As opposed to pushing and driving, right? Like women are naturally receivers. Like even physiologically, how we're built, right? Like men penetrate, they push through life, they're logically thinking, they're, you know what I mean, one track, not one track mind, but like they can only do, you know what I mean, like they have one task that they focus on and that's it. Women are all over the place. We can multitask. We have this beautiful feminine, do you know what I mean, like energy and aura that's attractive, that we allow things to come into our scope and into our into our sphere.
Mm-hmm.
We don't we don't know how to tap into that more. When we do, life changes. So for me specifically, I have stopped pushing. It was actually a very, very interesting transition, because most of the times I'm sitting here going like, I'm just being like,
Right? It's like
not,
la la la, and I love it.
more, right? But it's just allowing the energy to flow and to come in, and it's really about learning who you are, loving who you are, accepting every part of yourself, right? Self-love is massive, right? Because when you can accept yourself, you find your voice, you find your true power, right? And then everything else just kind of flows. So there's a lot of steps towards it. It's an unpeeling, it's an unlayering. There's always another layer, right? It's a journey, so there is no end destination, right? But it's really learning how to flow with life instead of push, you know.
Yeah, and there yes, and we have to kind of oscillate between the two, because no one's saying you're just going to be, if you're like la la la, and you're not going to get
We
anything
have to
done
have
either,
both.
right?
We
Yeah.
have both in our bodies. We have both,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, and it's knowing and giving yourself the permission to be in whichever you need or choose to be in at the time, right? Because there is time, like we run businesses. Like if we didn't put our, divine masculine hat on to do these calls and do the
100%.
stuff and blah, 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 nothing would ever get done, right? But at the same time too, we need to know how to take that hat off and put the mom hat on and put the Lori hat back on and just be Lori. I don't have to be Lori CEO. I can just be Lori and be Lori the friend and Lori the wife and Lori the whatever else that I need to be, you know. And it's just a constant hat switching
Mm-hmm.
that get to control,
It's finding
right?
the balance. The problem is that there is an imbalance, right? Most of us are usually in one polarity or the other, right?
Yes.
So we're in masculine polarity, like our businesses are going great, we're very focused, we're doing the work, you know what I mean? But then our relationships suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationships with everyone, not just our romantic relationships, our relationships with ourselves, our relationships with our children, our relationships with it, right? So it's finding the balance. Or we go on the other spectrum, right, where we're just all about, the feminine and not doing, right? And then we're not accomplishing, we're not on purpose, we're not, right? So it's really understanding the dynamics between the two and then finding a balance between
Yes, fine. It's
flowing.
called riding the wave between the yin and the yang, right? Which is the masculine,
Absolutely.
feminine. And this is honestly what in my own life too, personally, like I think and I'm going to explain how there's balance and harmony and all that stuff too, because the biggest times in both of my relationships and both my marriages, let's say, the biggest struggles were when I was business building.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I was stepping into my masculine, so I was stepping out of my natural being, feminine, loving, what attracted them Lori ways. Right. And so when you get into that masculine and you push and you step and there's like head butting and,
Yeah.
there's all that resistance and conflict. So now when I have that reflection, and hindsight is 2020, and this is what's great about doing the work and reflecting back and how you've come so far, even you at this point right now,
Mm-hmm.
is being like, wow, okay, so now that I know what not to do, what can I do now in terms of like softening that and stepping back into my feminist? Because I don't want to be constantly headbutting,
Yeah.
because I don't want to get a husband number 3. Like that's not my goal by
Yeah.
any means, right? Like we're stopping here.
Also, when
So,
you think about it, like there is no polarity. You have to create polarity in a relationship.
mhm,
Like if two masculines, they're not going to attract, right?
no,
You have to have the feminine and the masculine. You have to create that polarity.
yes. And you know, and women, when we're too much in that polarity or too much in that masculine or too much in that pushing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, can sometimes without great intention emasculate your partner too, which forces them into the feminine, right? And then there's, you know, a lot of resentment and there's a lot of, you know, hurt feelings. And it's just so, you know, being able to recognize that in your own relationship is really huge.
Mm-hmm.
But that only comes when you're willing to step inside of yourself. So taking a step back from the problems you have in your marriage and start to be like, okay, how do I represent or how do I be the best version of me in whatever hat, whatever role, whatever it is that I'm doing at this time? And that's really what harmony really is
Mm-hmm.
about too, because yeah, sometimes you have to be the boss and sometimes you have to be in the masculine. And then you have to recognize when it's time to step back, when it's time to surrender, when it's time to let go, when it's time to be like, put your hands up in the air and be like, okay, fuck it, we're eating ice cream for dinner tonight. Like, I'm
Yeah.
done, right? Like, and everybody's like, woohoo. And they're like, Mom, what's wrong with you? And you're like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I just give up, right? Like, are you guys happy? If you're happy, I'm happy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's great, right?
Yeah.
And so riding that wave, right? And so, you know, what are some simple ways, Gordana, that
Mm-hmm.
women can do that? How do we surrender? How do we let go? How do you just fucking relax?
Using your voice,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to use your voice. Embodiment practices, dancing is a beautiful way to get into your body. So ecstatic dance or just putting on music and like dancing and feeling your body. So really just tapping into yourself, into your own essence. Pleasure, self-pleasure. Self-pleasuring, creating a self-pleasure practice is massive. Just again, really learning how to embody yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Connecting to your intuition is huge. Really trusting, learning how to trust your gut, um, truthfully in so many different ways. Just really honoring that and learning how to trust your intuition. Getting creative. You know, femininity is all about creativity. You know, so letting
Yeah.
your creativity come out, not being so logical about everything. You know what
Or
I mean?
I'm not creative or I'm not
Yeah.
artistic. I don't know. Let's just try
And
it.
that could be
Take a risk.
anything. That could be anything. That could be drawing. That could be painting. That could be anything fun. That could be creating a new business, right? Just
Yes.
coming from that creative flow. Um,
Writing, even journaling. Start with that, right?
Absolutely. Honoring your emotions is a huge one.
You're not crazy.
No,
Like,
right?
you're not too sensitive.
Yeah, feeling, learning how to honor your emotions and feel. Uh, we shut things off so often that we become disconnected from ourselves and our bodies. And the more we can reconnect to our emotions and our feelings,
Mhm.
just naturally puts us in that state and provides opportunity for so much healing and growth. Um, sisterhood. Sisterhood is massive. Having an amazing group of women, a support team, a circle around you. There's nothing better than having girlfriends around you. I don't care
Mhm.
what you know what I mean. That support you and that have your back. That you can pick up the phone and call whenever you need anything. You know what I mean, or just to say hello. Coffee dates, wine dates. Um, what else? Learning about your body, learning about your menstrual cycles, learning about your hormones, learning about that kind of stuff that really brings you back into yourself, right? This is all part of self-love. This is all part of the growth. um, Sensual play, right? Self-pleasure, learning about your pussies, right?
Your anatomies and all that
Anatomy.
stuff. And if you're like, oh my God, it's like,
That's
okay,
freaking me out. Yeah.
it's the time is now to
Yeah,
start
that can
doing
be
this sort
that
of stuff.
can be very vulnerable and very triggering for people, right?
Hmm.
Because
Like
there's
that sounds insane.
Mhm. But oh my goodness, game changer.
You know, that book, we're gonna suggest it, is the book is Come As You Are,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was one of the recommended readings,
Reading books, yeah.
and great book, because it's very, I want to say systematic, in the sense that it's, it talks about anatomy, and then it talks about all the different variations. And I'm listening to this book and I'm like, holy shit, like I never even thought, I had no idea. And it's like, how am I only learning all of this at my 44.5 years of age
Yeah.
right now? Like, why am I only being exposed to this sort of stuff? Like, clearly my mother was not exposed to it, because she didn't expose me to it. Clearly my grandmother, you know what, forget it. Let's just
We
only
never
go
talked
one
about that.
generation
Like,
back,
it was
right?
that
Like,
generation. I don't know. We never learned about it in school. There was no sex education. There was no education around relationships, how to build relationships, how to create relationships, how to sustain relationships with ourselves. Never mind with partners or friends, right?
yeah,
My mother never talked to me about sex. It was that whole generation, right? So we kind of learned, basically the only thing that I remember learning is how to put a condom on a banana.
right.
Right?
How
That's
realistic is that?
it. So even I work with so many women that have not even ever looked at their vulvas, looked at their own body parts. They don't even know what it looks like, right? So having that awareness, embracing your own body, learning about your own body, loving every inch of your body, right? Taking away the shame, taking away the guilt, um, taking away all of that stuff that makes us feel like we're inadequate, right?
It's
Um,
really like the basic, most foundational and fundamental
yeah.
thing, really, is that, if you've done it, do it again. That's get a mirror, go have a look, just connect with your body at its rawest form. Because if you can't connect to your body at its rawest form,
Mm-hmm.
your connections with the people around you are not going to be authentic. They're going to be always at a very superficial level,
Yeah.
always from an external viewpoint. You're never going to have, and this is for whatever, level you're at. If you're stuck and struggling in your relationship, I'm telling you right now,
Mm-hmm.
there's a deeper level, and that deeper level all has to come down with your relationship with yourself. And then there's another deeper level after that, is that, like, we're talking having a profound, intimate connection with yourself and spirit, like, and allowing that connection to come back in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a spiritual journey,
Yeah.
right? We're not talking about, let alone how it's going to improve, your sex life or whatever with your partner, spouse, even if it's just you right now, right? Like, and maybe someone who's going to come along in the future. Like, this is what the healing needs to be done, is reconnecting with yourself
And
before
not
you're
only that,
able to.
like when you're blocked, especially in that area, like in that sacral chakra, like there's so many things that result in that. Do you know what I mean? Like there's emotional confusion, low libido, comparison to other people. You're not feeling loved or accepted. Um, Again, there's lack of creativity, right? There's the lack of creativity, lack of motivation, um, codependency, right? Dysfunctional relationships. So, really focusing on healing those parts of yourself, just open up so many more avenues for you, right?
Mhm.
Um, Putting yourself last is another one. Like, women are notorious for this. We're always putting ourselves last. Husbands, kids, work, everything else comes first,
and
right?
and if there's anything left over,
If there's any, yeah,
if
yeah,
because there never is. But if there is, right, like, we
yeah,
will buy it at discount.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
never full price,
Yeah,
discount only. I
yeah.
got it on sale. Like,
So,
and so we're really just tapping into opening up this conversation, so that you can start to just think about something a little bit differently, thinking about things in a different way, thinking about you in a different way, you know, as a loving, nurturing, receiving, abundant, sexual, pleasurable being. And that once you start to connect and tap into that version of yourself, then you can start to see that in the world around you, right? And just right now is a spring just sprung and it's just bursting with all its beauty right now. Like even just taking the time to just enjoying that and seeing that, like take the time to smell the roses, like, you know, all these cliches didn't come from nowhere, right? Like it's not a cliche, it's actually a really
So
important thing.
one of the things that I focus on every single day, and as part of my own pleasure practice, is finding pleasure in everything.
Right.
Because like I'm sure that you've talked about this many times, the more you focus on something, the more it expands, right?
Right.
Focus on expands. So where can you find pleasure in everyday things? Like sometimes it's just hearing a bird, you know, chirping. Sometimes it's a flower, sometimes it's a smell, sometimes it's something that you feel, right?
Or you taste. I moaned all over my smoothie this morning. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah.
Right. Uh,
So simple things like that.
where
Find
can you find
simple
pleasure
pleasure.
in the mundane, you know? And the more you start to focus on pleasure, the more you start finding it, the more you're actually going to find of it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I find pleasure in cleaning. Imagine, get there. Right? I'm loving on my house. That's how I look at it. I'm like, you know, I'm expressing my love for my house and what it does for me, which provides me with the basic necessities of life. So if you hate cleaning, find love, just do it by loving on your house. Like every stroke of cleanliness is a
yeah,
piece of love.
yeah.
Crazy stuff, I know, but hey, you know, like what have you got to lose?
Mhm.
And more importantly, what have you got to gain, which might be, you know, a happier, more pleasurable,
Oh, you've got
spiritual, sensual.
beautiful relationships, um, being heard, being seen, confidence, self-love.
And you know, and talk about a lot the things that have come into my life, honestly, no joke, Gordana, because I know you love hearing these things about how it shifts for people. So, you know, Tyler received a fantastic new job offer,
Mhm.
which allows more money for our household, right? And I didn't even do anything. I'm like, yeah, wicked, right? I'm like, I didn't even have to do anything for that. I'm like, you know, just seeing him happier, see, you know, like just in me being myself and doing these little practices and daily little, you know, parts of the program and finding the pleasure and just being and relaxing and surrendering has opened up more communication, happier, more support, less arguing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like this is working, right?
Yeah.
Like it really does work. And so clearly if what you're doing isn't working, you need to try something different. So I say take the foot off the gas,
Mhm.
just be for a little while and try some new things, step into your feminine,
Mhm.
Google it, research it, reach out to Gordana.
Mhm.
Gordana, can we share your playlist? Is that shareable for people
Yeah,
or no? Is it?
yeah,
Let's share it if you don't
sure.
mind, because
Yep.
this is like music that will allow you to step into your feminine. How I know is that it's sometimes hard for me to hear it because it's not the type of typical music that I like, which is like workout music and you know what I mean, something to motivate me to take action. So
Mhm.
this music is very calming and it's soothing and it's, you know what I mean, it gets me and sometimes it's hard for me to sometimes when I'm doing a task like cleaning the kitchen, I want motivating music, but I put playing your playlist and I'm just like la 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 la. And Tyler's like, I love this music. I'm like, get out of here. This is evoking the feminine.
Nice.
Yeah, I like go listen to some like headbanging music in the garage right now. Like this is my feminine time. I know you like this stuff. I'm like, so funny.
Yeah, we can
Like,
share it. We can share it.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
fine.
I just, you know, to allow people to give people the space, to give
Mhm.
people a different, you know, something that they're not used to.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this way you can connect with Gordana. So if you guys want that, I'll allow you to connect with Gordana to get that.
Mhm.
And then we will, you know, definitely have her back because we want to tap more into the other side. And especially as I learn more and go through the program, because I'm just new into it. It's been a couple weeks. that I'm going to be like, oh yeah, you guys need to learn about this for sure. So thanks so much, G,
Oh, thank
for
you
coming on here and
for
spending
having
time
me.
and having a chat with me and opening up this world to the group, because I think it's super important. And yeah, and so don't go anywhere. I'm gonna hop off the live stream. And so I wasn't on the live to see if anybody asked any questions, but whatever questions you posted or commented on, I will be sure to, me or Gordana will respond to them. So thanks guys for taking the time. If you're watching the replay, just let us know, give us some comments and questions, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Yay,
Bye.
bye.